I'm about to pot up the last of my bare root strawberries. It's a variety called Marshmallow, and they arrived just a couple of days ago in a bubble envelope and bound together with a rubber band. And bare root strawberries are the runners from last year, and they're dug up, the soil is cleaned off, they're packed together and sent out, and it's totally fine to do that because they're dormant right now. And in fact, the leaves that are on them, if there are leaves at all, they're last year's leaves. They're really kind of raggedy, and it doesn't really matter because new leaves are going to be sprouting out of these plants very, very soon. Now, most people, when these arrive, they take them directly out into the garden and plant them, and you can too. And it tends to be that bare root plants like strawberries and roses and soft fruit arrives right when you need to plant them. We've got Maggie running around here, so you'll probably see her behind me. And that's probably one of the most convenient ways of planting them, just put them straight out in the garden. But I tend to actually pot them up individually, and there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, if there are any worries about your strawberry bed being a little bit too wet and boggy, or you've got plans for your strawberry bed like I do, then you can pot them up, grow them on, and then plant them out in early spring. It's really, really easy. And I have a video showing how I did that with the Mara de Bois strawberries a couple of years ago. Now these Marshmallow, oh my gosh, Maggie is hilarious. She's literally climbing the wall over here. I wish you could see. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yes, I've got plans for my strawberry bed this year, and I'm going to be doing some work on it next month. So that's one of my jobs for February. And so I don't really want to plant these guys out because I'm going to be doing so much work in there and moving things around. So I'm potting these guys up. This is the last one, and it's literally just a little bit of compost at the bottom. Kind of tuck the roots around so that they're not all compacted and they're not all circling around in one direction, and just fill it in with some more compost. And then once all of these are potted up, I'll grow them on in the greenhouse. And it's amazing because once they're in the greenhouse, they've got that warmth and that shelter, and they actually start producing leaves a bit earlier than plants that are outside. And so if you grow them on the greenhouse, harden them off, and then plant them out, you can also get a little bit of an earlier crop of strawberries as well, especially if you have a cloche to put over them as well. So it could be a glass dome or it could be a plastic one. I've done it in years past. You put it over your plants, they actually produce flowers earlier. You lift it up when the flowers start blooming, and then bees can get in there and pollinate, and you can get strawberries a good couple of weeks before the others. Right, that is the last of the strawberries, and I will tuck these guys into the greenhouse and plant them out when all the work is done on the strawberry bed. So it'll probably be the end of March or even the beginning of April. And in the meantime, I thought that we could sit down and have a cuppa and talk about some of the garden jobs that we can be doing in February. I'll take you through what I have on my list of to-dos, and I will give you some more ideas as to what you could be doing in your own garden. So things that I need to get done. First of all, the strawberry bed. It needs massive sorting out. I have quite a large bed just for strawberries, and I'm finding that through the years it's getting more and more difficult to get to the center of the bed to pick strawberries, to do any weeding, to do anything. So I'm going to create a very narrow pathway that goes right through the middle so that I can lift up the netting and crawl under and not squash any plants, be able to get in there and harvest those berries a lot easier. The raspberry canes need lopping down, so I will prune all of them down to about 2 inches off the ground. They're autumn fruiting raspberries, so that means that they fruit on new canes, on prima canes. I have also some thornless blackberries, which you'll have seen a previous video on how to prune those. Those those actually produce fruit on their flora canes, so their second year canes. And so I have to make sure to cut only the dead canes, and all the ones that grew last year, I need to tie them into the supports again. We are a little bit unique here on the Isle of Man in that although we're in lockdown right now, it is most likely going to lift on Monday because we haven't had any community cases in quite a long time now. So we're probably going to be going back to normal again. So we don't wear masks here. If there's no COVID in the community, then people don't worry about social distancing or masks or things. And I think we're pretty unique in being an island and being able to do that. So one thing that I have on the agenda that's on the February to-do list, a February job, is to organize the seed swap. So we've set the date for February 20th. It will happen once again in Laxey at the Laxey Sailing Club from 1 to 3 p.m. And it is really, really fun. Now those are my main gardening tasks that I need to get done in February, but there's a lot more that could be done to prepare for the gardening year. And they include building anything in the garden. So that includes raised beds. You can put raised beds in, fill them and get them prepared for spring. You can also put in paths. You can put in trellises and supports for growing plants. Get in that arch for growing your sweet peas or your green beans or whatever. Get all of those, I guess, structural things done while you can, because it is going to be fast coming up on seed sowing times and caring for young plants. February seed sowing really starts towards the middle of the month. There's very little to sow before then. It's just too early in the season, and what's going to end up happening is that you get young plants that get too big to stay inside the house, but it's not quite warm enough outside for you to put them out in their final positions. So it's just always better to wait. And I am starting my seed sowing about the middle of February. And I'll be sowing all of the seeds under cover, which means either in the greenhouse or in the house. Now, the veg that I'm starting in the greenhouse are vegetables that germinate under kind of lower temperatures, so things like lettuce and salad greens, radishes, coriander, and things like that. And I'll put them in trays here, and it still might be a bit too cool for them to really take off. They'll take a little bit more time, but I'll just let them do their thing. Now, certain veg, like the peppers and the aubergines, the eggplants that I'm planning on growing this year, they need warmth to be able to germinate. And so I will be starting those off in the house. And I have a propagator and also grow lights, and I will keep those guys in a much more tropical environment until it's time to put them in the greenhouse. And they aren't going outside at all here. Some people are very fortunate to be able to grow more exotic vegetables outdoors. I can't here. Even tomatoes, which I will start this year in March, they will all go into the greenhouse. Although it isn't really a seed sowing activity, I have already started chitting my potatoes. And chitting means setting the potatoes someplace for them to start forming little shoots. And when they form little shoots, they have basically a little head start on growing once you plant them. This year, because there was so much blight in the allotment last year, I've just decided to grow first early potatoes. And they're ready fairly early on. And that means that they can avoid blight season, which is more towards the middle of summer here, the middle to late part of summer. It makes it very difficult to grow things like even second earlies and main crop potatoes especially. And because there are so many gardeners and so many people growing at the allotment, there's blight everywhere in the soil, and it just spreads around if it gets onto plants. So first earlies are the way to go if you're in a similar situation. There are things to be done in the garden in February, but we're still just at the beginning, just at the cusp of the gardening year. And that's great for me because I hope to be moving house very soon. So February or early March. We're not quite sure just yet. The advocates have let me know that they've sent in the searches. So essentially we will know within a matter of a couple of weeks as to when we can set a final closing date. And we actually popped around the house last weekend just to have a little look to see how things are coming along there. And not much has happened as far as them clearing certain things, but the boundary is up on one side of our garden space. And it's just exciting seeing where we're going to be moving in the future, in the near future. So let me know what you have on your February gardening job list and what seeds you're planning on sowing this year, especially in February. And thanks for watching this video. I'll see you next time. Bye for now. One last thing before you go. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to Lovely Greens and click that little bell icon so that you get notifications for when new videos are out.